shape I'm in. Do you mind?
All right, Phil. So I'm looking forward to this discussion. We're going to talk about a movie, I guess you call it a miniseries that we've both been enthusiastic about over the years, and it's barely cult status. I think it's fair to say it's really not a show that survived all that well. I mean, I think you see a little bit more about it on the internet right now, but didn't do that well at the time. Talk about Wild Palms. I think it was ABC miniseries from 1993, sort of associated with Oliver Stone because I think he was the producer, executive producer. But it has a variety of directors. Catherine Bigelow. I should say that I've always considered the real sort of brains behind it to be Bruce Wagner, who's
Right.
the person who created the whole enterprise, basically.
Yeah.
And I don't know if he was the illustrator behind the comic that it came from. It started as a comic strip in Details magazine, and it was developed out of that. But I think he was a novelist, and yeah, I think it's sort of his brainchild or whatever. But I think there were 4 episodes, all have different
No, there were
directors.
five, Scott.
Five episodes, all different directors, and great use of pop music. And I've always been kind of surprised that it really doesn't seem to have a wide critical following. I don't think I've ever, you and I wrote about it on Popped prior to the existence of rockcritics.com. We discussed the music there. And of course, you have included some of it in your book that we're here to discuss. Anyway, I'm going on, but yeah, just what you said you just watched it, you finished watching it today again, right? Was that like your second or third viewing of it, or?
I would say third or fourth. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So just as you were speaking, I thought of like 3 things. First of all, did Oliver Stone direct the first? I meant to check this. Did he direct?
No, I don't think he. I don't think he directed
Okay.
any. I think he's the executive producer. He shows up in a scene.
Okay, so yeah, I know it's kind of corny. He's talking about
Yeah. Do you feel vindicated? Yeah.
And yeah, he's getting credit from the guy
Yeah.
for having reopened them.
Yeah.
So self-serving. Well, there are at least 2 other prominent directors. I don't know who directs the first, but there's Keith Gordon, who was the actor, Angie Dickinson's son in Dressed to Kill, and he's done other prominent series. And then there's a guy, I don't know what happened to him. His name is Phil Jonou or something, Jonaou. He directed a film that I saw at the time. It got a lot of attention a year before, I think. Wild Palms was called State of Grace. It was about Irish gangsters. It was sort of like an Irish version of Mean Streets with Sean Penn and some other people. Now, you mentioned surprise. It hasn't caught on. Watching it today, I'm very surprised because it just speaks to so much.
Yeah.
Whatever you think about it, we both like it a lot, but even if you didn't like it, you'd have to at least give it credit for some foresight. And there was one other thing you mentioned that slipped my mind, but it'll come up in the course of the conversation.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, and I don't know how you want to dive into the music itself. I mean, on the page I've posted, I think, all the prominent music clips, and I think there's like 6 or 7 of them, and I think there's little sort of bits of pop music, that kind of show up in different ways too. Some of the dialogue. I mean, I know, we've talked before about the great Brian Wilson scene with
Okay.
What's the guy, the Go Master or whatever, and he's saying like in my room, like Brian Wilson. That is, yeah. Like that's great. It's just like a little allusion to Brian Wilson. Before we actually talk maybe specifics, I do have one question for you. And I know I'm going to let you do most of the talking about the music that you chose, but the one thing that's always been a little curious to me, and I mean, I forget the term you've used, the diegetic or whatever it is. Like for most of the songs that are used, the pop music, it's not in the scene itself. There is at least one exception to that, which
I can think of one. I can think of 2 where it's in the 3. I just thought of a third. But, there's one, and I was going to ask you if you can remember the very first pop song that plays in it.
Is it I Need Your Lovin'?
No, it's a song
before then.
Song both of us like a lot.
Oh, I think I remember it now.
I'll tell you,
Lightning Strikes. Lightning Strikes.
Even before that.
Really? Okay, I'm stumped.
It's the scene where Grace is at work and Bibi Noor's character rushes in to use the washroom. Remember what's playing in the store?
No, and I should mention it's probably been 10 years now since I've watched the whole thing, but no, I don't remember.
Mason Williams, Classical Gas.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I
So
barely
that's
remember
one.
that.
Yeah, that's one diegetic. Lightning Strikes on the car radio is the second one, and then yes, I Need Your Lovin' would be a third. I don't know if that's
Well, what? So then I guess the question I was going to ask maybe is kind of nonsensical, but speaking more to the '60s music, I guess it always struck me as a little odd that the emphasis in the show really is it's a '60s soundtrack with those few early, and it just it's a series that was developed in '93 and it's based in the future, which by their terms was 2007.
2007.
The characters would not have been baby boomers. I mean, they might have been tail end boomers, but they weren't '60s. Well, were they?
I think they'd be
no, like Tony Kreutzer. Tony Kreutzer was
Tony Kreutzer
because he developed his thing in the '60s, right? But Harry Wyckoff would not be a '60s person, so
I'm not sure. But there's another diegetic use, even though because it's in the scene, would be Love Child, right?
Oh, that's true. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
So actually, I think there might be more of that than, or it's at least it's 50-50. Not only is the music 60s, but there are other things like that. Remember the prominent use of "The War is Not Healthy for Children and Other Living Things" poster, which was such an iconic 60s. Or actually, that might even be has come around in 70, but it sort of speaks to the 60s.
To that era, yeah.
And there was other stuff, just references to TV shows and things. So there's a weird
Norman Mailer, Armies of the Night.
Armies of the Night.
Yeah, just stuff like that comes up. Yeah.
It's just one of the many interesting, strange things about the show. So even I thought even before we talked about the music, I made some just general notes.
Yeah, go for it.
We don't have to dwell on for a long time. We've already covered about 3 of them. Right after the Mason Williams song, there's a great dialogue reference to pop music. I can't remember the setup, but I think it's the same scene as the BB Nervous. She says, or somebody says, "You're such a woman," and then Grace says, "But you break just like a little girl."
Yeah. That's right.
Do you remember the scene where Harry goes in thinking he's getting the partnership for his law firm?
Yeah, I mean, I remember it. I remember it in broad out.
And the guy doesn't. He says, "We're not going to give it to you, Harry, because suddenly you're involved with Paige Katz, and." She's involved with Robert Loggia and Kreutzer, and they're coming after us, or we're coming after them. I can't remember. So he doesn't get the promotion, and he basically throws a temper tantrum and quits. It was so. I swear that's a reference to Lost in America.
Yeah, I could see that. Yeah.
If you were to watch that, if you were to watch that scene, Scott, you'd immediately think of Albert Brooks going in expecting his promotion. One thing I know, there's a lot of, you may remember this, there's a lot of punning in the dialogue, and some of them are actually pretty good.
Yeah.
I generally don't like puns, but somebody says partying is such sweet sorrow. When Grace is starting to have her breakdown, she says, "This is the first day of the rest of your life."
Right.
And then there's other stuff like that.
There's one that's always stuck in my mind. I can't remember the character's name. I think it's Grace's father, and he's in the hospital bed, and he says, what does he say? He says, I have a bad case of mood poisoning. Must be something I hate."
That's exactly right. That was another
That's one. Great.
And I think if I copied them down, there are at least 3 or 4 others. Just weird. Now, even before we go, when we were sort of setting this up, I sent you a clip of, we're going to do The Sopranos later on. I 2 points of overlap with The Sopranos. One of them, of course, is Robert Loggia. And here he plays one of the 2 or 3 main characters. I guess the 3 main characters, they're really 5, I guess, almost equal. But anyway, Senator Kreutzer, the guy who's basically trying to take over the world through this technology and drug mimosine. He plays Feech LaManna in one season of The Sopranos. One of the few Sopranos characters where when Tony wants to get rid of him, he doesn't kill him. He basically arranges for him to get sent back to prison. Anyway, the characters are so much alike. It's not Robert Loggia's first scene in Wild Palms. He has a couple before. But then he has this scene where he meets up with Harry, who he's just hired Harry, and he explains to him that he wants to basically crush the other television stations. And Harry, he's already told him he wants to crush the other television stations, but Harry goes ahead and secretly cuts a deal with the other stations. When he tells Robert Loggia just flips out. And if you play that scene side by side with the Feach Lamonti scene I sent you from The Sopranos, where he's describing how he asserted himself in prison very crudely, it's almost the same scene. Like, Robert Loggia is so over the top in both of those.
Yeah.
He's just, how far? Well, that's about, geez, that's at least 15 years between those two scenes. But I guess he just that's his signature scene.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's amazing. And, the other point of overlap, I thought, and I want to actually undermine this point, and the next thing I wanted to say is that they both, obviously Wild Palms, but also The Sopranos, they owe kind of a debt. There's a Lynch influence there. Sopranos has at least 2 or 3 really strange dream sequences or entire episodes, and I'm pretty sure I read, oh man, who's the creator of The Sopranos? I'm blanking.
David.
Yeah, you're right.
I should know.
It's David. He goes by one name.
Our friend David, yeah.
He credits Lynch, so they've got that too. Now, having said that, as I was watching it this time, I thought even more than Lynch, and I'm not sure if you've ever seen this, Wild Palms, I think, owes a huge debt to Videodrome.
I've read someone else say that, and I don't know Videodrome, so I can't comment on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's got an equivalent. The tech has equivalencies. Robert Loggia has an equivalence, and there's a Robert Loggia type character. It's a guy that owns the station, I think Brian Oblivion or someone. And just even moments and scenes. I was thinking of Videodrome all the time.
Wow.
Now, that may go right to Bruce Wagner. Bruce Wagner is not, I'm probably getting him confused with Douglas Copeland. He's not Canadian, right?
No, I don't think so. No, he's LA, I'm pretty sure. So
I'm almost finished. General notes. The two things that and this is where I said, where I was saying, I am surprised that it hasn't had a resurrection, because first of all, it is such a Trump film. It really is. We wrote about it in Unshackled. I went over it. I think you wrote the entry. I went and looked at it. And very briefly, actually, I just grabbed the book a minute before we got on here, so I didn't read it word for word. But two characters, obviously, like Kreutzer has so many things in common with Trump. The one that struck me tonight was this idea that we're never going to get rid of Trump, which is his goal. Somebody has a line where he wants to live forever, and he wants to get into our dreams so he can haunt us in our dreams. That's great. If that isn't Trump. Talked about the children, Cody and Deidre. Cody especially are basically Trump's children. Trump's children, singular, children, just not a word. Yeah. And just how he launches the campaign for the presidency, just basically coming from a media angle and other things. And then the other Trump, of course, is Josie.
Yeah. Angie Dickinson. You should mention,
Angie Dickinson's character, who's vengeful, hateful, vindictive, all the rest of it. And the other big thing is, came out in '93 just as the internet's starting to take hold, and has so much to say about addiction to the internet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mimosine. I thought about myself today. These guys wandering around desperate for mimosine or desperate for the tapes that go with it. I thought about how panicked I was when I got locked on Facebook for a day or two this year. I don't even like Facebook. It was like my whole world had ended. I have no more contact with anybody.
It's like your church windows.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm like, Facebook, get me back on Facebook. So it's got all that, and I still think it's going to happen. Yeah. And the very last pre-music note I took was just the Bibi Nurwith character. She's so weird. Oh, yeah. She's one of Robert Loggia's inner circle, yet she doesn't seem like any of the others. She just has one
wisecracks, doesn't she?
Just wisecracks. One weird joke, and they're good too.
Yeah.
One weird joke after another. TV series, sometimes, the series the last few years, they'll have a character like that. I'm sure I've talked about them all. There's, well, what's her name? Who's the mother in Sharp Objects?
Oh,
the Patricia Clarkson.
Patricia Clarkson, yeah.
Clarkson, not in Sharp Objects, and House of Games. Her character is just totally bizarre. There's this guy who shows up in both House of Games and Fargo. I can't think of the actor's name. He's really weird. And there's these other off-the-wall characters, and she struck me that way.
So, like, so you said is it House of Games or House of Cards?
Games. Yeah. Kevin Spacey.
House of Cards.
House of Cards, not House of Games.
Okay.
There is a movie called House.
Okay.
Anyway, I just wanted to get all that stuff said. We can talk about the music now, Scott.
Okay, so
well, that was the other thing I wanted to say, having to do with the music. When you and I wrote that piece for Pop, I swear that's a blueprint for the book and or for the blog and the book. We were basically doing exactly the same thing, right?
Yeah. Well, I think it came after your Scorsese piece, maybe too. So I think you had sort of set the format. But yeah, I mean, no, it's
okay. But
and I'm just surprised
we're looking at this TV series, maybe, and we're picking out songs.
Yeah. No, and I was definitely blown away when I watched it. When it was on, and I was so glad at the time that I recorded it on VCR or VHS because I was able to rewatch it again. And now, of course, I've got the DVD or whatever.
Yeah, so, I think I did the same thing, and then I still have it on VHS, but I found the DVD on sale.
Here's to old love songs and new realism.
So how do you want to dive into the music? Like, do you want to go talk about your choice?
I thought we could maybe focus on 4 clips that I think we both love. And certainly if you want to add another one, please do. I was thinking No Expectations, which is what I picked in the book, Wedding Bell Blues.
Yeah.
Gimme Shelter, you're right, it's great. And House of the Rising Sun, of course.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to throw in there?
Yeah, no, I think those are 4 of the key ones for sure.
I'm trying to think of the order that they happen in.
I say Wedding Bell Blues of those, I'm pretty sure came first.
Wedding Bell Blues would be first, so why don't we start there?
Yeah. So, and I mean, you could say something
and Love
about
Child too.
Love Child. I was just going to say, the Love Child is pretty great. So,
in
fact, that might even be the first chronologically, I think.
Okay.
Doesn't that open season 2, I think?
Yeah, it does. Let's talk about Love Child. 2. It does open. It opens an episode, certainly, and it does open as the second episode. You're right. Robert Loggia is sitting poolside, but we don't know that yet. And we just start with 3 Japanese women decked out like the Supremes, evening gowns, glittery evening gowns. They're all beautiful.
The hairdo,
hairdo, beautiful, and they look like a mid-60s girl group, like a sort of a really high, not a Shangri-La's, like a really high-class Motown act, and they're lip syncing to Love Child, and they're a hologram. They're the technology that Robert Loggia is, and the technology keeps getting more and more intricate as the 6 or 5 hours go on. And nobody's really paying that much attention to them. Then Harry wanders into the scene, I think, and they have a conversation. They're just in the background.
Well, and then doesn't he flip? Like it's like he flips the channel and it becomes sumo wrestlers, right?
I don't even know if he flipped. I don't remember. You might be right. Maybe he actually does.
I thought there was a sound or something like like a bzzz, and then it changes to sumo wrestlers that he's watching.
You're right. And he's watching sumo wrestlers.
It's a bit like well, it's obviously like television, but it is a little bit like YouTube, right? Like YouTube.
That's the thing that I thought about watching it
before YouTube. Really, like
somebody that's addicted to YouTube. Like, I don't know about you. If YouTube went under tomorrow, I would go through such withdrawal. More than Facebook, more than Facebook, because I use YouTube constantly to check things, just to watch things for fun sometimes. Yeah. So many different uses. And, or even if they didn't go under, if they started charging like a lot and I had to make a decision, it'd be tough. That's what I thought about YouTube. So that's the first, and it's just great, right? In Love Child, there's a song I've always liked a lot. It's weird. It's one of the first Supremes ones that they went through kind of a minor, explicitly political phase in the late '60s, trying to play keep up, obviously, with other Motown artists. If not them, at least Berry Gordy wanted them to be the same.
And I've always kind of assumed that there was a little bit of a thematic gesture with the use of that song too. Like, you know, there's the whole thing about there's a lot of confusion over who's kid and who's parent and stuff like that.
Good point. Like, I hadn't even thought about that. You're right.
Because isn't it? I don't. Again, it's been a while since I've seen it. But Ben Savage, who's Cody, who's the sort of most prominent child in the movie, isn't there some confusion in some way about whose kid he is at one point, and then or am I getting that mixed up? Like, I know it's just
totally ambiguous for a while, and finally it gets resolved that Cody is in fact the son of Robert Loggia with Paige Katz. Harry is also Robert Loggia's son.
Right.
Robert Loggia, Harry Wyckoff, who thought Cody was his son, was actually his brother. And Grace is Eli Levitt's daughter. And Deidre, I think, is Harry and Grace's daughter.
Right.
So it's crazy. So Love Child, it does fit in that way.
I feel like getting in a little trouble tonight. Want to get in some trouble tonight? Let's talk about Senator Tony Kreutzer.
So then, chronologically, what would you say is next?
Chronologically, I think Wedding Bell Blues would be next. And you were worried about putting that on? It's not that bad, Scott.
Well, it's a little creepy, and
it's creepy. It's not all that graphic.
It's not that graphic, that's for sure. Yeah. I mean, I'll just say I was stunned when that showed up, because I don't think it had been that long that I had really been a big fan. Like Wedding Bell Blues kind of came back to me probably via yourself, and maybe it was on your first Radio On list or something. I don't think I really thought much about the song. You know, I was a little too young to hear it when it was a hit and new, and then during the 70s and 80s, I don't think I even thought about it. And then for some reason, it reached me again in the 90s. So I was just blown away hearing it in that context. And obviously it's, it's this very kind of, I don't know, innocent kind of song, and it's used sort of as anything but. I don't know if you want to try and set the scene. I mean, again, it's like a mimosine kind of fantasy sort of song.
More holograms. He's with Paige in his bedroom, and they're talking about something. Okay, I can't remember. I should have made a note. But then he starts to get amorous, but he can't, he's impotent, basically. And he says, let me put on, I don't know how he phrases it.
He says, let me put on tape.
Let me put on tape. And suddenly there's a woman in the room, again, not Japanese, but decked out in an evening dress. And she's lip syncing to the actual Fifth Dimension recording of Wedding Bell Blues. And she's kind of appalled by it. So she storms out. And I think there's a moment maybe where he contemplates going after her, but he's enjoying the hologram too much. So he just settles back, and then the woman crawls on the bed. And
it's internet porn, really. Like it is.
It is. Absolutely. And you said, I was checking something as you were talking, because Wild Palms is 93 and Wedding Bell Blues had been used really well in a movie 2 years earlier in My Girl.
I remember you mentioned
My Girl, sort of a nothing film, popular with Macaulay Culkin and Anna Chomsky or something.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think it's her that lip syncs Wedding Bell Blues in that, and it was the one good thing about the film. It was just, it's that song, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I could lip sync Wedding Bell Blues in a film. It'd be great. Because
yeah.
Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, actually, I answered my question in my head while I was asking, so I'm okay.
So that's great too. Two similar scenes, both resurrecting songs from the same year, 68. 68 may have more, so maybe if we gave it some thought, 68 might have special significance.
Yeah.
Because you have them chanting at one point, the whole world is watching.
Right. And you mentioned the classical gas too, and that's 68.
Classical gas
so,
is 68.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there you go. Oh, wow.
What year is Lightning Strikes, actually? What year is
Lightning Strikes is a little earlier. I think
earlier,
it's 66 or 65. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
But
okay.
No Expectations is 68.
Yeah.
Beggar's Banquet. So clearly they used a lot of 68 music to go along with some of the other symbols and things in the film.
Some way out of here, said the Joker to the thief. There's too much confusion, I can't get no relief.
So next, I think, chronologically would be, it's got to be House of the Rising Sun. They're trying to get Chicky Levitt is this wow, what is he?
He's like yeah, and he's like the guru, I think, part of the technology or something. Like I think he'd be too young to have developed the technology, but I think I think it's implied that he just sort of became its guru, like Synthiotics or the Go Chip or something. And he was really no pun intended, really wired into how the stuff works or something. I guess he was maybe like some kind of computer genius or something.
It's Harry's father that came up with Mimosine.
Right.
But it's Chicky, who is Eli Levitt's son, and Grace's brother, right? Although she never really seems to refer to him as
yeah, I forget. We should mention that it's Brad Dourif.
Played by Brad Dourif of Cuckoo's Nest fame and Lies Blood and some other films. Always, would often play really strange characters. In Lynch films, he's in Blue Velvet playing one of Dennis Hopper's flunkies. Anyway, so he spends his time in bed, always, never leaves the house. And he's got a real love for this internet hologram named Tara.
Yeah.
Who I don't know if her importance goes beyond that, but he's clearly addicted to images, maybe addicted to Mimosine. It's not really explained why he's bedridden. He's this very frail, nervous, anxious type, and they have to get him out and get him to the beach for some reason. Because when he was a child, they took him to the beach to keep him healthy. We find out that.
Right.
So it's the first really wild scene, I think, in the whole of Wild Palms, because everything just suddenly goes crazy. They use just as the shooting starts and they grab him, House of the Rising Sun starts. And it was such a surprise at the time because that's why it makes me think it may have come earlier than a couple that we've already talked about, because it was just such a shock to hear the song used in a television production and used that way, and it kept playing. They didn't just put it on and take it off. It kept playing for a good 3-4 minutes, and it was just crazy. All the stuff that was happening. People were getting shot. They were trying to stuff them in the back of a van. That comic ends up, first of all, he saves Tommy, but then he gets shot dead.
He gets killed,
Yeah. I don't know what I thought of that character. He was really annoying with all his Stitch, with all his jokes that weren't really fun.
Mind telling me what's going on? Who are you, Marvin Gaye? What's going on?
And it's just 5 minutes of chaos with House of the Rising Sun playing. And I think as I wrote in the piece, it was a song I thought I was tired of forever, and it worked so well. It just brought the song back to life. Something I've talked about with other movies where something, even Sunshine of My Love and Goodfellas, it just takes a song. You thought, I don't ever need to hear that again. And combined with the images, combined with the context, it's like you're hearing it for the first time again.
Well, and it's probably, of all the songs used in the movie, I would say it's the one that might have some direct sort of connection, not connection, but just in the way it's used. It's definitely got a bit of a Scorsese feel to it for sure. Like maybe the only place, like with the violence, and it's so amazingly well edited to the music and stuff. But you can't forget to mention, of course, that to me the real capper of the scene is actually how it ends, because they take Chicky to the beach, and there's two great things about that. I think there's at the end, I think the father yells Chicky, like right at the right time, like in sync with the music, but then it cuts to a hologram of what's his name, Chap Starfall, doing Bob Dylan's All Along the Watchtower.
That's right.
And that was what killed me watching it the first time. Like I found that so moving. And we should mention it's Robert Morris, of course.
I know. And believe it or not, even though his name's prominent in the opening credits, and even though I'm watching him, it took me 5 minutes to say, "Oh yeah, God, that's Bert Cooper." I can't believe it. And he's much younger. He's much younger. He does not look like Bert Cooper in Mad Men.
Yeah.
On the street of dreams. You still love the way he did that.
He was a handsome boy. Good pipes on him.
And there's just something great about choosing those two songs in tandem. I mean, there's a Dylan Animals connection in many ways. And Dylan did House of the Rising Sun before the Animals did. But just choosing, and All Along the Watchtower is not really one of my favorite Dylan songs. I mean, I love the Hendrix version and stuff. But Robert Morris or Chap Starfall basically does like a loungy version. And then it's one of those, it's the classic sort of Wild Palms move where, and you'd already seen Robert Morris or Chap Starfall be killed, but you sort of don't think of that when he comes on, he's singing this lounge version, and then you realize, oh, it's a hologram. And B.B. Newer says, I got to say that posthumous quality really gives me the shivers or something.
That's what I was just going to ask you. If you remember, that's why I smiled. Did
that's
you remember
so great.
B.B. Newer's? I think she says, I like him so much better.
Oh, yeah, since he died.
Since he's been dead.
But it's great. And then this...
Just the way they cash in on pop stars, right? Like Elvis and Kurt Cobain, and oh wow, they're dead. They're so great.
Yeah, and I actually find that version of All Along the Watchtower very, very kind of haunting. And I think they end the scene with just like the piano music, like it almost sounds like Layla or something, the coda of Layla. Like it's just really beautifully done. So yeah, that's a great. That would probably at the time that was certainly my favorite scene in the movie for the music. So
yeah, almost probably almost ended up writing about that.
Down, down, down to the pool of tears.
Let's see if we can squeeze. We got 6 minutes left, Scott. Let's start with 3 minutes on our last two songs. So Gimme Shelter it's used twice. I think most memorably the first time at the wedding of Kreutzer and Page. And this is, again, 3 years after Goodfellas, right?
Mm-hmm.
Goodfellas doesn't. Goodfellas doesn't.
91 or 90?
Yeah, but you know what? Goodfellas doesn't use Gimme Shelter. It's Casino, and then I think The Departed. So that's kind of But anyway, it's got this great long tracking shot up to Page. She's wearing that red dress. She's great all the way through. She is really attract Kim Cattrall, just the way they've got her with the Lulu Brooks hair and everything.
Brilliant, yeah.
And she's a very conflicted character. She gives her like a really strong performance. And yeah, it's mostly the tracking shot. It goes on. It's still in the background. And second time, honestly, I don't quite remember it. But the second time it's used, I think I just remembered this bit of graffiti.
Yeah.
Where it says House of Pain. And now I was thinking, did that inspire the name for House of Pain? But I think they came along in 93. So
yeah,
I don't think it's that. It's mostly the tracking shot that made that memorable for me. I don't know if you.
Yeah, well, I think, man, it was just a sinister scene. There's this scene. I think it was the scene where someone I think Kreutzer gave the order to someone to kill someone. I can't remember who it was.
I think at his wedding he sent someone out to either abduct someone or kill someone. You're right.
Yeah, like there's a really sinister order sort of given from the back of a limo. and the window goes up, and it's sort of nicely in sync with "Gimme Shelter." And yeah, I mean, it's the way it's filmed. Really, it's just very, it's definitely it's sinister like the song, and it does a really good job of it. So
one thing they do really well in that is they just come up with clever tech talk throughout.
Yeah,
it's at the wedding where you know how they replay the dance.
Yeah,
and Robert Loggia says, "Never mind instant replay. This is instant relive."
Instant relive, yeah.
It's really good.
And what's funny about that is I think that's one thing that turns some people off the movie. In some reviews I have read, some people said, "Oh, it, you know, gagged me with a spoon over all these like stupid puns and tech talk and stuff." And I think I could see it driving some people crazy, but I think it's really clever.
Maybe at the time all that was so ubiquitous, you know, information superhighway and
exactly,
you hear that stuff all the time. But I think they came up with their own language, and 20 years down, not 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, it actually holds up well.
Something's weird. What is it, Greg? What's the matter with me?
You're just working too hard, I guess.
And then the last thing would be the one that I wrote about in the book, which I love. It's No Expectations in a dream, not a dream sequence, sorry, a mimosine sequence. They've arrested Harry, taken him to the hospital. They're trying to get him to tell them where the goat chip is. He doesn't know where the goat chip is. But they give him 1,000 grams of mimosine, and that quantity turns up elsewhere. 1,000 grams is made to, you're made to know that that's a lethal dose.
Right.
Because they talk about either Chicky or Tommy getting 1,000 grams. And that's where it starts to, not only does it really do you in during the mimosine experience, it lingers and you get flashbacks. So during his, once he goes under with this dose of mimosine, next thing he's walking into his kitchen. He sees his dead wife is at the counter. She's got a little spot of red. She says, "Don't worry, it's just and No Expectations is playing. It starts up. She says, "Don't worry, it's just a flesh wound." And he's got that great line by Jim Belushi. After she says that, he goes, "Something's weird."
Yeah.
Which nobody ever says in a dream sequence, and they should say in every dream sequence.
Yeah.
Something's weird. And
I love when she hands him the sword, like as he's going by.
You forgot your briefcase.
Yeah.
Hands him this huge sword, and he goes out to the pool, which has got some special significance.
Leads to the Wilder zone. Leads to the Wilder zone.
Yeah. And he encounters his dead father, and one of the I think the single scariest moment in the film. Father goes to embrace him and just violently butts.
It's so violent.
But before that, yeah, I know, but you're right. Physically, you feel before that, Grace is at the top of the pool. She's changed, chewing him out, and her flesh wound is stirred. She's now covered in blood.
Yeah, that's great.
And it's just, why do I love that? Again, it's just a disconnect to use this. You know, one of the, I don't know if you'd say beautiful for No Expectations, but
yeah, I think so. Yeah,
it's
pretty. It's one of their prettiest songs for sure.
I'm thinking You Got the Silver would be, you wouldn't describe You Got the Silver that way.
Yeah.
But you would describe No Expectations that way.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it great. It's just, and just to see this TV series, you know, it was so, Twin Peaks didn't have much music, certainly didn't have pop music like this. I think it's the first.
Yeah.
Really do.
Yeah, for TV series. Good point.
Yeah. Not to cut that short, Scott, but
I think we're going to get there.
That's good. Okay, so Wild Palms, let's make it a hit. 5,000 views. Bring it back into the public discourse.
That's right. But back to the public it never had in the first place. Okay.
Gentlemen, put your glasses down anywhere. It was nice of you to drop by. Harry, it was nice to meet you. Goodbye now.